he'll be looking out the window or he's sleeping, and I would just scream as loud as I can in the car, yeah. And he wouldn't even look at me. And I said, wow, that's when I realized, wow, this kid really is deaf, like he can't hear me at all.
My name is Shelby Costello. I'm 28. I'm a mental health activist with 2 degrees in psychology and counselling. I grew up in Brixton/Stockwell with my mum, and growing up and living in a deprived area and in a single parent household with no dad, I have gone through my fair share of traumatic experiences.
Apart from my therapist, that's the first time I'm actually talking about it.
In this generation, it's easy to bash black men because of what they may have put us through. It's easy to call them mad, it's easy to label them crazy. However, with my background in psychology, I'm able to recognize that some men are actually acting out from a place of untreated PTSD or anxiety due to the harsh circumstances of the life that they lead. And they themselves are not aware of how this is negatively affecting them. Unfortunately, statistics show that black men are 10 times more likely than their white counterparts to suffer from psychotic disorders, which is crazy. Government statistics also show that Afro, Black, Caribbean people have higher rates of mental health illnesses compared to any other race. This is the story of Sheldon Hamilton, a story not told to point fingers, but to illuminate the profound and lasting impact a system can have when it fails an individual, not just after incarceration, but from the very beginning. I wanted to sit down with Sheldon and find out his story and see how he has been in his fight for justice recently. Sheldon told me he has a love for music, and despite being deaf, he wants to pursue his music career. So I decided to take him to Brixton Studios, courtesy of my good friend Judge Soz, and Sheldon took me through his process of making music.
Where I lived was Gloucester from the age of 1 to 3. Then I moved about for a bit before I ended up on Sumner Road, where it all started off. To me, Peckham was a good area to live in, but it's easy to fall into the wrong crowd. So I lived with my mum and dad and my older brother Kieran. My mum used to fall sick a lot, and that had an impact on my behaviour at school. And I was getting into trouble a lot with teachers and fighting with other students. And that led to me falling behind in education and getting excluded. And later on, it turned even worse. I got expelled from secondary school and started getting in trouble with the police as early as 12 years old. I started falling in with the wrong people, and that had more impact on my family, especially my mum. When I was about 13 years old, she lost her leg. I went to my nan, and she said, I've got some news to tell you, but she didn't want to tell me over the phone. So what it was, the next day she came in to visit me with my dad and my auntie, and she explained the situation, what happened with mum. For me, I got to go to the funeral, but my brother didn't get to go to the funeral because they were saying that gang members are going to be at the funeral, so it wasn't safe for them to let him go.
Yeah, this was it, man. He was growing up in Peckham, at Sumner Road. Everyone knows how it is growing up there, what you see, or, yeah, so, yeah. But he's always had a good heart.
We also caught up with Brad, someone who has known Sheldon since childhood. Brad is someone who Sheldon would often reach out to for guidance.
I've known Sheldon since time-wise, since he was about 7 years old, 8 years old or something like that, around the back streets, just playing like a normal kid, just playing on his bike, just being a normal kid. There was no attitude or issues in regards to that. I wasn't shocked when I heard that he went to prison. Not because I feel he's such a bad character and he's violent or he's this, or it's just something that's kind of a normality. We're very desensitized to people going to prison where we're from.
Sheldon was sentenced in 2010 for aggravated burglary. He was told he would be serving 8 years in prison. He was in Ashfield, Isis, Portland, and Feltham, and admitted to Springfield Hospital for 3 years. I sat down with him to find out how the incident occurred that led him to becoming deaf. I was very saddened by the series of unfortunate events.
Basically, what was the prison officer gave me a behaviour warning for smoking in an authorised area. But I tried to challenge the situation and say to him that I wasn't smoking. But then maybe he didn't like the manner on the way I was speaking. And then next thing I know, he tried to hit me. So I punched him back in self-defense. Then all I know is about 10 prison officers came onto the ring and assaulted me.
I've known Sheldon and his family for years, and I've witnessed firsthand the unfortunate and enduring effects of his release from prison. Immense hardships have marked Sheldon's journey. Since his release, he has been left with no hearing, his mental health conditions already a struggle. They have tragically worsened to the point where he has been admitted to Southfields Mental Hospital in Tooting with suspicions of schizophrenia. While Sheldon was imprisoned, he suffered another devastating loss. His mother passed away. The grief compounded the isolation and struggles he faced behind bars. Sheldon's account reveals a deep sense of being overlooked by the government. He states that he hasn't been enrolled in any meaningful rehabilitation programs. As a direct result, he remains unemployed, forced to navigate the complexities of integration into society in his late 20s, a crucial period for a personal and professional development. His family has tirelessly tried to raise awareness about this plight, but gaining traction for Sheldon's story has been an uphill battle.
The situation regarding Sheldon and his injury, I got a phone call. It was another boy Sheldon had got to make phone calls for him and talk on his behalf because he had been deaf. So the young person is the one that told me of the incident. Basically, whatever Sheldon told him is what he told me. So he let me know that Sheldon was now deaf because he had an incident with guards, or he had a fight and then he had an incident with the guards, or it was a young person that to be fair, I'm not unsure if it was the guards or it was another inmate who he had a fight with. I thought it was an inmate that he had a fight with.
The information that I had received from the NHS is I was due to something medical, so I just left that there. So it wasn't until Sheldon's story in the video that said it was actually an encounter whilst he was in prison and the guards, had beaten him up. And so that was his version. But like I said, the fact is that he has lost both hearing. How are we going to support him to live as best a fulfilled life as possible? Sheldon doesn't identify as being deaf. So that was a massive barrier because he doesn't identify as being deaf. So the hearing aids and medically the things that were put in place to support him, he didn't encourage because he doesn't identify as being deaf. And so as part of the personal development and the intensive support, it was to look now at the fact of my identity. Yes, is it my hearing that defines me, or who am I? So we had to go back to basics with Sheldon because he wasn't born deaf, but now he found himself deaf and he was identifying as being deaf as opposed to identifying himself as who am I? Deafness is not who he is. Deafness is, it's happened to him, but it's not the core of who Sheldon is.
When I got diagnosed with mental illness and was getting depressed, so at first it was me not making sense in what I'm saying, my behaviour, that I was talking to myself or shouting outside the window or hearing voices. So what they did was they tested me to see what caused my behaviour. Then they kept me away from the others in what you call a referral unit. And that is where people go when they get in trouble. Then I went back down to a deaf hospital called Springfield. and I was there for about 6 months. Then that's when I got released.
Sheldon's medical team quickly diagnosed him with schizophrenia after he was hospitalized. He believes the condition developed during his time in solitary confinement. Following the incident, he was placed in isolation where he began to experience auditory hallucinations. He reported to officers that he felt he was losing his hearing, but they dismissed his concerns. This lack of validation contributed to a significant decline in his mental health, leading to Sheldon's hospitalization.
Schizophrenia, so I've heard he might have. I was unaware of that. As far as I was concerned, he was just obviously now he was deaf, and I feel from my own judgment that he may have been a young person that might have suffered with learning difficulties. But that's as far as I thought it was. I thought it was just a young person that suffered from learning difficulties, struggled in school maybe. Not that I know much about his academic, but I know he didn't really attend school often.
Sheldon's mental state when I first met him was, he wasn't in a good place at all. His mental state, he was on various different medications. He was very withdrawn. He didn't communicate a lot. It took time to build. And so when I met him, this was back in 2017, we worked tirelessly to support his mental health and incorporate exercise, looked at his diet, and really took a whole person approach to really support with his development. Around about maybe a year or so in, they had reduced his medication. Now the capacity in which I was contracted through the NHS to support Sheldon was with intensive personal development and to support him into employment and to ensure him not to end up, reoffending. What we put in place was an action plan. It was about encouraging independence and ownership and responsibility for his own life. And years on, I can certainly see that the withdrawn, isolated, lack of confidence young man is no longer there. He's now witty, he's confident, he's eating healthy, he's making better decisions. And so we can really see the transformation based on the intensive support that he has been given. Although there is still a long way to go with Sheldon.
Well, being released is hard really because I'm still struggling to get a job or some sort of work. But I got outside help from a woman named Shasha that works with IME, family support from my nan, my dad, my brother, and some of my cousins and my auntie. When I got released from prison, I was nervous at first because there wasn't much I could do for myself, like work, because I didn't have no qualifications.
The support system, shit. I don't know who's to blame for it. If maybe they've reached out and he's not followed up on things like appointments or communication. Maybe it could be any of those things, but from where it stands now, set aside, it looks like they've left him for dead, especially knowing that he was deaf inside the prison, so then things should have been put in place for him from before he was released.
What I see myself doing in future is helping others, like working with reform kids, but I need the support behind me. I do want justice for what happened to me because a lot of stuff like that happens in prison and they only show you what you wanted to show you. And I want people to understand that being a roadman is long because you can end up in prison or even worse off, dead, and it has a big impact on family.
As educators, as parents, as different institutions, if we provide a more holistic and wraparound service whereby there is better, clearer communication between the school and the parents, and also in terms of picking up on what is going on with a young person as early as possible. I think that's a key thing here. And when I've gone into prisons, whether I'm in a youth centre or whether I'm in the community, I always hear, not only from educators, but from the young people themselves, had I gotten the support. Look at it from a preventative approach. Here is a young man whose life has massively been impacted. The whole trajectory of his life has changed. now he has to learn and adapt to having lost both hearing, adapt to, okay, you know, him being incarcerated for years, having been, one thing I love and I admire about Sheldon is his resilience, and one thing that he has is this internal drive of not giving up on himself. And so the takeaway for me is that our young people, you know, let us fight for them collectively, because no young person, if you ask them, you know, would say, I don't want to have a good life, or, you know, I want to spend years in prison.
What would I like to see Beans in the next 5 years? Firstly, hearing, being able to get his hearing back, get a job, have a normal life really, keeping out of trouble, which he is doing. He's been doing since he come out. Yeah, man, just being able to enjoy life, be able to hear people, interact with people. Yeah, that's it really, man. Yeah.
I'd like to see Sheldon most probably maybe in some type of employment, some kind of direction in his life of what he's doing, like a daily routine that he's doing. So it might be work, some kind of activity, hobby. Might have to look outside of his old set of friends and meet a new set of friends in regards to those that are similar, going through similar difficulties to himself. Because if his relationships consist with people that are not in his situation, from his old peer group of friends, they're not trained and they don't have the patience to deal with that. From where we're from, it's a every man for themselves environment.
I want you to tap him in this kind of, just so he can feel the groove. So that way, it kind of gives him like a gauge to. No, follow the groove of the tapping. Follow the tapping.
Okay, so.
I'll do it with my fingers.
No, hold on.
Believe in me. Believe in me. Sometimes I wish I could get around like this. Free of me. Oh, wait. Believe in me. Thank you, Lord, for speaking through me. It's a music when I was around the age of 11, but I wasn't as good at first when I started writing. But during to life experience, I got better over time. When I see myself in 5 years' time, hopefully that my music takes off. Possibly working with big names. I've got too much to say. I can't talk too much without reading back what I'm saying. I can't speak too much what I'm saying. Because my head overthinks. I don't know. I don't know. I've lost my confidence. I'm not confident. I'm not too confident as before. I'm not too confident as I used to be. It doesn't make me feel. I don't know. I try not to think about it, but I still know there's still hope in my head.
What we aim to show in this film is how the system failed Sheldon, not just after jail, but long before. We believe that learning difficulties and challenges with Sheldon's home life may have gone unnoticed and unaddressed during his school years. The consequences of having to fend for himself from an early age without adequate support meant he was tragically encouraged by his surroundings to go down the wrong path. It's not solely the school's fault. Various factors, including his home environment, played a significant part in shaping his trajectory. We later caught up with Sheldon this year and asked if his circumstances had changed, and unfortunately, a year on from filming, Sheldon is still in the same position, job-wise and financially. He has no support with this at all. He still has big hopes and dreams for his music career and helping youths get off the streets.